All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this explainer. I'll be your resident biologist for the next few minutes, so consider this your masterclass on the microscopic world inside us. We're going to zoom way deep into the human body to unpack a truly wild story of biology, survival, and what actually happens when our very own building blocks decide to rewrite the rules.
To really wrap our heads around this disease, we've got to start with one central guiding question. How does a perfectly normal cell become cancerous? Because look, cancer doesn't just suddenly appear as a mass. It starts microscopic. It begins with literally just one single cell out of the trillions in your body that decides to completely ignore the fundamental laws of biology. So, how does that actually happen?
Okay, picture this. Imagine we're zooming deep down into human tissue. We're flying past these glowing networks of blood vessels, past billions of cells working together in total harmony, until we focus in on just one perfectly healthy cell. It's just peacefully dividing, doing exactly what it's supposed to do. You see, in a normal body, cell division is super organized. Cells reproduce to replace the old or damaged ones, and when there's enough of them, they just stop. They listen to the signals. Basically, they're model citizens.
And inside this model citizen, the DNA acts as this beautiful, glowing, highly intricate instruction manual. Those long sequences of chemical bases tucked inside that famous twisted double helix, they give the cell absolute perfect orders. Exactly when to reproduce, exactly how to function, and exactly when to hit the brakes. It's honestly just an exquisite piece of programming.
But here's the catch. That programming, it is incredibly fragile. Our bodies are constantly getting bombarded by environmental factors. UV light, tobacco smoke, not to mention just natural internal processes that inevitably damage our DNA. Actually, thousands of tiny, completely unavoidable errors happen naturally in a single human cell every single day. And when a change in that code happens, we call it a mutation. Think of it exactly like a typo in that glowing instruction manual.
Imagine a little glowing red glitch in the code. That's our mutation. It might be a tiny change, like swapping out a single letter in a word, or maybe it's an addition or a deletion in our perfectly ordered sequence. Now, most of the time, these typos don't really do much of anything. But if they happen in very specific genes, the ones that regulate how a cell grows, well, then we have the beginnings of a really serious problem.
Thankfully, normally, the body has some pretty brilliant safeguards in place. The cell's repair tools immediately rush in to fix the glitch. But if the damage is just too severe, a guardian protein, the most famous one is called P53, steps up. It looks at the corrupted code and triggers something called apoptosis. That's just a fancy word for programmed cell destruction. The cell essentially sacrifices itself, literally falling on its sword, to safely remove the damaged code from the body. It's a pretty noble end for the greater good of the tissue.
But what if a damaged cell somehow survives and tries to divide anyway? Well, our immune system acts as this constant, vigilant security patrol. T cells and natural killer cells are always circulating around, sniffing out cells that are producing weird, unusual proteins on their surface. And when they spot a rogue cell, they destroy it before it could ever grow into a threat. This microscopic battle is literally happening inside of you every single day, completely behind the scenes.
But sometimes error control fails. DNA repair genes get silenced, which means those typos start piling up faster and faster. And it usually takes a magic number, on average around 12 specific driver mutations accumulating over a long period of time. It's this specific, unlucky combination that alters the cell's behavior just enough to let one single rogue cell successfully hide from the immune system and totally escape the body's natural defenses.
To really understand this hijack, imagine a microscopic tug-of-war happening right there inside the cell. On one side, you have normal growth factors giving the green light, saying, hey, keep dividing. Opposing them are tumor suppressor proteins acting like a red light to stop that growth. For cancer to actually take over, both of these critical safety pathways have to be corrupted at the exact same time.
Put simply, it's like the cell stomps on the accelerator while completely cutting the brake lines. Normal genes that promote growth mutate into what we call oncogenes. That's your stuck accelerator, telling the cell to just endlessly divide. And at the exact same time, mutations knock out the tumor suppressor genes. Those are the broken brakes that would normally step in to halt this dangerous division. So, with the brakes gone and the gas pedal jammed, our rogue cell completely ignores all the stop signs. It just rapidly multiplies, cloning its damaged DNA over and over and over again. And here's the thing about normal cells. They respect personal space. They stop growing when they bump into each other.
Cancer cells, yeah, they don't do that. They just keep piling up into this growing, disorganized, incredibly greedy mass called a tumor.
And as this tumor grows, it gets hungry. It needs a massive amount of energy to fuel all that rapid division. So it pulls off this sinister little hack on the surrounding environment called angiogenesis. The tumor secretes chemical signals that basically trick your body into building brand new infrastructure just for it. It builds these twisted, abnormal, leaky blood vessels that grow directly into the mass, siphoning off vital nutrients and oxygen from the rest of your healthy body.
Which brings us to the absolute most dangerous phase of all, metastasis. Up until now, the problem has been entirely local, but eventually, these specialized leader cells within the tumor start secreting enzymes. They essentially break down the microscopic walls and boundaries that were keeping the tumor contained. This allows the cancer cells to physically escape the original site and start invading neighboring healthy tissue.
And once they break free, the whole disease goes systemic. These cancer cells slip into those newly built, leaky blood vessels or into your lymphatic system. And from there, they circulate freely throughout the body, riding along like passengers on a microscopic highway, somehow surviving the brutal physical forces of the bloodstream. Finally, they squeeze back out to invade distant tissues, places like the lungs, the liver, the brain, or your bones, where they set up camp all over again and form secondary tumors.
Now, I know that all sounds completely terrifying, but science is fighting back with some serious ingenuity. Doctors use surgery to physically remove the mass. They use chemotherapy, cytotoxic drugs designed to hunt down and kill fast-dividing cells. They use precision radiation to inflict catastrophic DNA damage on the tumor to force it to die off. And honestly, the most exciting part, we're now using these incredible immunotherapies to essentially release the brakes on our own immune system, unmasking those hidden cancer cells so our own T cells can hunt them down.
So, if there is one absolutely crucial takeaway from this whole microscopic journey, it's this. Cancer isn't an invading enemy. It begins as one of your own cells, slowly accumulating changes until it no longer follows the rules that keep the body healthy. It is fundamentally a mechanical failure of our own fragile code. Which leaves us with a really fascinating question. If cancer is ultimately just broken code, what incredible new discoveries are waiting just around the corner to help us finally rewrite that code for good? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and as always, stay curious.